not a new conflict. We know that the US-Israel partnership and their collective fight against Iran has been building up over decades. For this offensive to happen, what do you think was the provocation?
Iran's direct confrontation with Israel was played out through Hezbollah in Lebanon for 2.5 decades. Iran not only extended its full support to Hamas, but Iran also, in a way, showed its support to what happened to Israel.
We noticed that attacking a civilian, killing a target, now they're openly saying it's a regime change. Iran made it very clear to them, you started the war, we will end it on our own terms. Who is the main sufferer in this war? It's India, it's China, it's Japan and South Korea. These are the countries who is buying the 60% of their oil from this part of the world.
Hello and welcome. My name is Sanket Upadhyay and you're watching me on The Federal. The show is called AI with Sanket, the AI of news, because news in India today requires not artificial but analytical intelligence. Just over the weekend, we saw a massive upheaval in the world. A new war has begun between America, Israel, as well as Iran. There were missiles flying this way and that, and in one such coordinated attack with prior intelligence, America and Israel managed to kill the topmost supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei. Will this bring an end to the Islamic Revolution of Iran, which started in 1979 and led to the Ayatollahs ruling in Iran? Will this create a situation that the Shah of Iran and his descendants will come back and rule Iran? Is it even possible? Or are we looking at a situation that the world has been pulled or sucked into a long haul war, unlike, say, Venezuela or other parts of the country, other parts of the world where America attacked? Could this fight between Western powers and Iran be a long drawn battle which will have serious implications and serious ramifications on world politics and world economy? We put this through a discussion. All right, joining us right now is Dr. Khinevirad Jahangir, Director and Professor of the Center for Israel Studies at O.P. Jindal Global University. Thank you very much, Dr. Jahangir. I want to begin with you first on the escalation. Why did it have to come to this? This is not a new conflict. We know that the US-Israel partnership and their collective fight against Iran has been building up over decades and has flared up recently. But for this offensive to happen, what do you think was the provocation?
Thank you. I'm glad you could hint that it's an old war and a new battle. The provocation, there are many provocations. Iran and America and Israel have been at odds since 1979. Iran was an ally of America and the Western powers as well as Israel from 1948 till 1979. But I think Iranian appropriation of anti-Americanism in the region and Iranian negation of the two-state solution. Iran rejected the idea of the State of Israel after the Shia Revolution, and that has been the historical provocation against Israel between the two. When it comes to America, America was seen as a Western, extension of the power in the region, and something that didn't like the Shia Revolution of 1979. Of course, America lost its very strategic Shah, who was the ruler of Iran before 1979. So there was a geostrategic loss, and Iran perceived America as a counter-revolutionary external actor. So that's the historical source of their animosity. Now, the current battle has to do with what happened in October 2023. As we understand, America has been fighting the Iranian nuclear program for the last 2 decades. But America has been adopting all kind of, coercive as well as persuasive methods to slow down the Iranian nuclear program through mediation or through direct diplomatic negotiations, as Barack Obama succeeded doing with Iran. But Iran's direct confrontation with Israel was played out through Hezbollah in Lebanon for 2.5 decades. And when October 2023 happened, Iran not only extended its full support to Hamas, but Iran also, in a way, showed its support to what happened to Israel on October 7th, 2023. So for Israel, this was now a moment of no backing, off. And Iran unfortunately lost Hezbollah in the long Israel Hamas war of 2 years. And Israel now cashed on to that opportunity after not having Lebanon and Hezbollah's threat from the north to attack Iran. Iran has been weakened internally as well in the last 3 years. The regime has faced tremendous domestic dissent, and it gave Israel this strategic opportunity. So, of course, Israel is in a way not letting this opportunity go. We don't know if this battle will be the end of the regime, but certainly we understand that this is the weakest point Iranian Revolutionary Guards have come to since 1979.
Yeah, interesting. So you basically are suggesting that an unrest and an upheaval inside Iran served as the perfect opportunity for Israel and the United States to plan what they had been planning and take on Iran post 1979, the manner in which it had become. It has become it was in the hands of the clergy, in the hands of the Ayatollah. But that is my question, Dr. Jahangir. Will the death of Khamenei necessarily bring an end to the regime of the Ayatollahs or the system that Iran follows since 1979, the Islamic
It may,
Revolution?
it may not. It may not. That has to be seen. It needs two developments in that direction. One, how much the domestic protest movement, which has been there for a decade, will now pick up its force. And second, how much America will sustain its attack on Iranian regime from outside. Let's understand this, that America also doesn't have much liberty of continuing this war beyond 4 weeks or 6 weeks, because it will then cost a lot of domestic support to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is still carrying that image that he doesn't want to have any other priority but to make America great again. Now, so Trump has a limited time, and he doesn't want to really mess with this uh, image of him in the domestic politics. So I would say this, that America would in any case be limited in terms of its engagement in the region. However, it will really depend on the domestic actors in Iran to take it from there. So it may go into a kind of a civil war in Iran in coming months.
Dr. Jahangir, we've seen that the political leadership, of course, the Iranian structure post 1979 is that you have an Ayatollah at the top, the topmost religious figurehead as the supreme leader, and then you've got the institutional arms. In the elections, we saw a liberal or a rational face or a side of Iranian leadership at the helm in Pezeshkian. Now, do you feel that post the death of Khamenei, this may give rise to the more radical within Iran and thus extending the conflict rather than reducing it?
Well, so far, what we call reformists are within the Shia revolutionary ideological goalpost. So they are really not reformist and moderate in general terms. Pezeshkian, or the very famous Larzani, who was one after Ahmadinejad, were still working with the fundamental ethos of the Shia revolutionary guards and their foreign policy objectives. So I would say nothing is moderate within the Iranian system that has been in place since 1979. For a really moderate and a plural, and what do we mean here? Meaning, Iran doesn't make religion and the Shia revolution its foreign policy objective. That Iran doesn't pick up the anti-Americanism and anti-Israelism as its core goals. Rather than doing those, it would promote a more free and an open society, work for the betterment and the economic well-being of the people, and give people a much greater say on what should be the idea of the state. Like, the fundamental question in Iranian society is this: should the state be a Sharia law run state? So, unless and until that radical and the fundamental transformation, which is sort of a revolution again, it would be a revolution if Iran can do away with the Sharia law that got into reality in only 1979. Iran wasn't run by Sharia law. Iran was a very Shia country. Iran was a very religious country. But the idea of the state was not driven. There was a separation of the church and a state kind of an arrangement which ended in 1979. I think Iranians do remember very fondly the time before 1979, where there were religious people very, proud of their religious identity and their belief of Islam, but their state was doing the basic human, things like economy, jobs, education, health.
I get your point, but you see, back in 1979, also during the Iranian Revolution, the point was that whatever is happening in Iran is a Western construct. It betrays Iranian culture, and this was the argument which was the bedrock of the Iranian Revolution that eventually led to the dethroning or throwing away of the Maharaja or the king, Pahlavi. Uh, it seems that the descendant of Shah of Iran, the son of Shah of Iran, now wants to have a shot. Do you think it is even realistically possible to lead that sort of a revolution and dethrone or remove the Islamic identity of Iran and then install the monarchy one more time? And do you think it will be possible for Mr. Pahlavi to do it at the back of Israel and American support alone, given the fact that Iran won't be alone? You have a China and a Russia which is openly backing Iran and supporting Iran.
Okay, I do think Iran is alone. China and Russia, if you listen to the Iranians, they say that they have been betrayed by the two. China and Russia didn't help Iran in the month of June last year, and they haven't helped Iran right now. What they're providing, of course, a rhetoric and a few arms, but those are also insufficient arms to fight the Americans or the Israelis. But let's come to the most significant part of your question. Iran under the monarchy was also one of the most democratically open political space in the 1940s and 50s. There was something called Majlis. So the monarch was there, but the Majlis system, mini parliament kind of a thing, was in practice. Of course, the Western interventions did create a kind of a discord, and this happened in the year 1953. There was a very popular lawyer and a politician called Mohammad Mossadegh, who became the prime minister of president of Iran in 1951, and he nationalized the oil industry of Iran, and he completely, wanted to throw the British petroleum, the company that we call British Petroleum today, uh, out of Iranian oil industry. So it was a bit of an economic autonomy kind of a battle for Iran against the West. And Britain really took the matter, with Americans to not let Mossadegh do this. Let's remind ourselves a very, let's say, Western hegemonic times in the Middle East. In 1956, Egypt also did the nationalization of the Suez Canal. And Gamal Abdel Nasser also endured a war that was launched by Britain and France upon Egypt. So, in that decade, when the Cold War was taking shape, the Western powers did not want to lose their economic hegemony in the region. So, yes, Iran does have a historical grudge, and a rightly so, an episode where the Western powers did not let Iran be economically autonomous. However, in 1973 coup, it was not an implant by external actor. Shah was very much a very popular figure in Iran, and he took the hold from Mossadegh. So monarchy really tried to save itself rather than giving it to the anti-Americanism and anti-Western politics of Mossadegh. Gamal Abdel Nasser became very successful with that, but Iran didn't really want to go that way. Iran was quite suspicious of two things in the 50s: Arab nationalism and communism. So it didn't want to really be under the Soviet influence as the rest of the Arab world went to the Soviet influence. I would say this: the Iranian misfortune wasn't this fight against the West. Even India did it. Let's remind ourselves: India's nuclear program is exactly what the Iranian nuclear program is: stepping out of the NPT, creating a logic of national security, and exercising a self will that if a country wants to commit to a civil nuclear program, it can get there. But unlike India, Iran picked up a much bigger battle for itself. So in 1979, when Iran goes through this revolution, it hijacks the American diplomatic bases. It kills more than 40, 50 American officers. It declares America a great Satan. It declares Israel a little Satan, which was completely fine. From 1948 till 1979, Iran was one of the first countries to have full diplomatic relations with Israel when the whole of the Arab world was fighting Israel. So I think there is a bit of a geopolitics that Iran has also played to its advantage. It's not enough to put the whole blame on the Western interventions. Iranian misfortunes are also out of those dilemmas of nation building, where the idea of the religion and the idea of the state is yet not deliberated by the people, and the people didn't have a chance. If you really look back at the revolution of the 1979, the 1979 revolution was a mass revolution, a leaderless revolution, a revolution that was against a corrupt and a nepotism full monarchy. People really came out on the street not for a sheer idea of the state. They came out on the street for better economic conditions. Iran was always a rich country, and people did not want that wealth accumulation of the monarch to be in the plain sight. But clergy hijacked the revolution when the monarchy couldn't sustain a very popular mass protest. It's something like Arab Spring. If you look at the Arab Spring, it happened from the bottom up, and it was for very basic human necessities. So the appropriation by the clergy was never a mass-based emotion. And I think they didn't have a mass base in 1979, so they created external enemies. They galvanized the whole society into this Sharia law. And in the name of what? In the name of anti-Americanism and in the name of anti-Zionism.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jahangir, for joining us. Thank you. All right. Joining us right now is award-winning investigative journalist, noted author, Dr. Wael Awad. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Awad, this condition and situation in Iran, attack by Israel and America, and the death of the Khamenei, how do you look at this? Does this necessarily mean the end of what Iran saw since 1979?
Thank you for having me. I think what was happening here, we have seen that, a policy followed by the United States over the decades, which is called the regime change by force. And regime change by force they have carried out, in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Libya, and they continue in Iran actually now when they are, the president himself was against this type of objective by the American administration, by his predecessors, and he was criticizing them, President Trump. However, ever since he came to power, we have seen him that he's been attacking many countries, including Venezuela, and now it is Iran. So therefore, the regime change policy is a saga which is continue with the American foreign policy in many parts of the world, and especially in those oil-rich countries. Having said that, that Iran was always on the target for the United States ever since the revolution has come to power in 1979. And then they have already created an anti-American sentiment because of the CIA indulgence in the 1953, the coup against the Prime Minister Mossadegh, and then they brought the Shah. So therefore, there was a rift between the two for years to go. Now with the Israelis in the pictures also, because Israel already after the 7th of October started a new security doctrine, which they wanted to dismantle all the countries around the region where they can stop Israeli ambition from expanding. So they have destroyed Syria, they are destroying Lebanon, they're destroying Yemen, they're destroying Popular Front in Iraq, and it's Iran which is left in the region. So the fight against Iran is carried out by the United States and Israel, which is against, of course, it is illegitimate, illegal, and they have violated international law. So Iran reacted to this killing by attacking mostly all the American installation and military bases in the region, including the British military base in Cyprus. And also they have attacked Israel's in retaliatory measures against the killing of the supreme leaders. Now, America have been, as you notice, also talking only of the nuclear program of Iran, that Iran, because of their nuclear program, that they wanted Iran not to have or possess any nuclear weapons. But then we noticed that attacking a civilian, killing a target, now they're openly saying it's a regime change. But that doesn't come by this. Iran made it very clear to them, you started the war, we will end it in our own term.
Now, Dr. Awad, one of the concerns here is that Iran's present leadership is at its weakest, which explains the fact that Khamenei was killed in a strike by Americans and Israelis. Had Iran not been this weak, due to a number of factors, this would not have happened. Also, Iran and the war against it by America and Israel was helped and aided by players in the region like Saudi Arabia. In a situation like this, do you think that the present day leadership of whatever remains can actually sustain this onslaught?
Well, if it is a regime change by the United States, the covert operation was carrying out in Iran for long years, and the Israeli publicly saying it, yes, we have been supporting the Mossad agents were there in the last war with the US and Israel, the 12 days war last year. In fact, we noticed exactly what you've been saying, that there were lots of spy and betrayers inside Iran who have been sabotaging the state, and then they were siding with the Israelis in American attack. And there were the Israeli prime minister convinced the President Trump that if we take on the leadership, then the government will fall. But that never happened. First of all, there is a difference, no doubt about it, in the Iranian. The government is not weak as it may looks like. There are some economic harsh, and you know that this is not newly on Iran. It has been there since 2005. They imposed the sanction, UN sanction. Then 2015 they signed the deal with the American and P5, and then after that, American president pulled out. Then another unilateral sanction by the US. So we saw 2009, 2019, 2021. There was a demonstration in Iran that the regime continued, the government continued to function. Then this was the largest demonstration in the region because of the economic problem. But still, the people, when it comes to an attack by a foreign power on the country, nobody wanted a foreign intervention in their affairs. That's take it for a right, take it for a sure that nobody wants, especially the Iranian. And you could see last month when the anniversary of the revolution, it wasn't easy to take 26 million people in the street in celebration of the revolution. So there is a ground support for the revolution. Now, after the killing of Khamenei, and you have seen it also on TV, there are millions of people pour in the street. Why? If the man is not popular, why people has to go voluntarily into the street? You cannot have that much of an army to mobilize to make the people comes out of their home, right? So there is a sympathy, there is a support ground for the country. So why you want the regime change? If it is your issue with the Iranian is their nuclear project, why you wanted to weaken the government and weaken Iran? So let's be very frank on explaining to your viewers that the actual war on Iran is a regime change. They wanted to end the Iranian nuclear program. They wanted to end Iranian ballistic missile technology program. They want to disintegrate Iran. And that is the whole objective, because it is the only castles in the region that defeating or defending the Israelis' expansion and deferring the Israeli expansion. So if you remove Iran out this part of the world, then America will achieve two front wars, actually. One is a global war, where they will control the Strait of Hormuz, all the corridors, the passage of the oil north-south corridors. That's what the American aiming at. And then the second one, regional one, where Israel will have the dominance hand in taking over the whole region from Euphrates to Nile. Even their ministers of finance, minister of the internal government, Ben Gavir, with Smotrich, prime ministers, openly saying it. This is the border of Israel from Euphrates to Nile, which includes Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, 1/3 of Saudi Arabia, Sinai Peninsula, and even the American ambassador to Israel, he was saying it openly in his interview that this is the legitimate for Israel to occupy these territories. So why are we legitimizing illegal war? Because a country is defying the American and the Israeli ambition, and we have to support. There is no legitimacy. There is no way, nobody in this world should and accept this kind of an attack on any sovereign nation. This is illegal, illegitimate, and covered the act by killing an innocent elderly person who is respected by all the Shia community all over the world. What are you doing? The ramification is now witnessed. Now Iran is already taking part. Now a Popular Front in Iraq is also taking part. Now Houthis, Ansarullah is taking part. So you know it, you knew the consequences. Iran is attacking most of the GCC country, so it's a regional war. It's no more limited war against Iran. And that was what we were talking about for years, and saying that stop this madness in this part of the world. No one wanted this war. Even the Saudis, where people saying Saudi is favoring, none of the Gulf country was in favor of this war, because they know that the moment this war break out, it will be the military bases of the United States in their territory, a legitimate target for their enemy.
Dr. Awad, that brings me to that question again, which I asked you. Do you feel that Iran can, if the idea behind this exercise was a regime change in Iran, so that Israel and America can have greater control over the region, complete control rather, not greater control over the region, is it possible now, or will there be pushback from Iran, and how?
Well, Iranian made it very clear. As I said, they told them, you started the war, we will end it in our term. Iranians are prepared. It's an extensional war now. Iran is preparing for this sort of an attack, this sort of retaliation, and they will cause the Americans lots of pain, especially if they start attacking the American warships and coffins start flowing to the United States. But then President Trump will be in a problem. Now you can see that NATO allies of the United States are slowly joining hands. So it's not a war that it is because, a US and Iran. It is a war fought by the colonial power. It is the British now, it is the German now taking part in this war, including the Israelis and the American. So what does it mean? That it doesn't mean, it means that Iranian understand the game plan, attacking all these military installations surrounding Iran, and they will continue because Israel and America are not going to stop. And they wanted to make sure that they weaken Iran economically, politically, and militarily. And that's what the war will go on. It's a long haul war. It's not going to end overnight. This is not
But
Iraq.
Dr. Awad,
this is not Venezuela.
I agree. You're saying that this is not Venezuela, but with Iran's leadership at its weakest, with domestic problems in Iran, do you feel that the Iranian fight back will be as fierce as you are defining? And who will be the allies for Iran? Who will support them? There you have got allies, it's very clear.
Yeah, see, you got allies. This is the colonial attitude. That's what I'm saying. Iranians are defending themselves in this war against aggressions. So they are know very well they are ready for the fight till the end. Or even though we know that the United States is the supreme power in this world, still they can cause damage to the Iranian. Yet we understand, but they have already knows that Iran is not a weak country. You know, Iran is not a small cakewalk and you just take over. Iran will fight till the end. Believe me, and even you may think it is the weakest government, it's nothing to do with the weak government or strong government. The people are rallying behind the government, and nobody wanted to see an Iranian killed. Look, the school been attacked by American. 100 children have been killed, and players in the football they have been killed. And what do you get the answer from the American president? Oh, they have a Saturday. Why they go to school on Saturday? Look at the attitude. I mean, who is caring about us as a human getting killed in this part of the world? That is what we should focus, right? We are not here to celebrate a regime change or a regime fall. This is for the people of the region to decide the future. Even the Iranian, they may have difficult, as I said, political differences with the government, and they have been electing their government. This is there for them to decide who are appointing the United States as the policeman in this world. There are 120 dictators in the world. Plus, does the American are the policeman of this world? Why? Is American are a good a government that's good for their own people? Which government they have intervened and they brought democracy? Look at Afghanistan. Look at Iraq. Look at Libya. Do you know how many Libya now? Who is the president of Libya? Where in Sudan? Everywhere they have gone, they created havoc. So why should we celebrate when we know that this is today Iran, tomorrow could be any other country? They will continue. They want to control the oil and the resources. They have done it in Venezuela. They're doing it in Iran. Tomorrow, Nigeria, Algeria, then Greenland. Then you say that's as I said, it's a global war, America fighting to control the passage and the oil resources where you will be tapped. Who is the main sufferer in this war? It's India, it's China, it's Japan, and South Korea. These are the countries who is buying the 60% of their oil from this part of the world. Now, Strait of Hormuz is blocked. You are suffering. Your economy will fall. Why? Where is the pretext that we wanted to see a regime change? This was a very peaceful situation. Things were going normally. America intervened. Then the chaotic situation developed. This is what America wants. Make America great is only by finding a new military zone where you can destroy. It's not a conspiracy theory. What I'm trying to explain here. It is the conspiracy itself.
So you're absolutely certain that Iran is not going to fold like Venezuela. Things are very different. It's not going to happen that way.
Absolutely. I mean, even the American made it clear. If they wanted to take Ayatollah Khamenei only and bring down the regime, they would have done it. The objective, as I said, is different. What they have done in Venezuela, they hijacked the president and his wife. They took the oil control. They signed a deal of 40 covered deal with the new government there. 40 years that American will sell the Venezuelan oil. Tomorrow they will release Maduro. Job is done. As usual, the United States achieved their objective. Iran is a different story. Iran selling by de-dollarization. Iran is a part of the BRICS countries, which also will cause destabilization. Iran is a geopolitically important for Russia, for China, for India, where you are trying to build the Chabahar to go access to CIS, like you have the north-south corridors, where this Russia and India and Iran, where the Chinese having the Silk Route BRI. So therefore, it's a war fought by the United States for their own interest and for the Israeli interest.